that landscape has always meant culturally and religiously, and how it was used for thousands of years. Other people from Washington, Oregon, Northern California, and Idaho showed me around, also taking me to their sites and explaining the historical, cultural, and religious contexts. They also took me out to the dip net and long net operations on the ocean and Puget Sound. I went to 2 or 3 small dip net operations on small tributaries. The Indian people explained how the tribes have benefited from salmon as food and sometimes sails. Everywhere, including my visit with Delbert, I saw traditional canoes, spears, and apparel, as well as more modern items such as contemporary boats, rifles, and fishing gear. As the years passed by, I focused more and more on Pacific salmon. I increasingly brought them into my writing. I also took on projects involving salmon. Mediations and arbitrations between tribes and state and federal agencies, speeches, media interview requests, and giving advice on proposed legislation or settlements. Pacific salmon became my favorite animal. Then, I found myself wanting to be absolutely clear on the place, the importance of the Pacific salmon. Why do people write statements like these? The definition of the Pacific Northwest is anywhere that Pacific salmon run. Salmon are the soul of the Pacific Northwest. Since the Ice Ages, this Pacific Northwest muscular fish has embodied the health and vitality of this region. Salmon are an icon. Why do Indian people and tribes often describe themselves as the salmon people? We prize oven-grilled and backyard barbecued salmon at home and in terrific salmon restaurants in Seattle, Portland, and other places in the Northwest. That is important and relevant, but it doesn't justify calling salmon the soul of the Pacific Northwest. The same is true with the joy that sport fishers feel about getting out in the open water and catching these strong, powerful, and beautiful fish. So too with the significant economic benefits to the commercial fisheries industry and the considerable economic contributions that sport fishing provides through payment of government license fees, equipment purchases, and travel, lodging, and other expenses paid by visitors. What is uniquely different and compelling about Pacific salmon is their life story. How possibly can they do what they do? There is much public film on Pacific salmon migrations, and Americans nationally have a sense of those spectacular long-distance journeys. Much better if we are able to get out to the rivers at the right time, most return salmon runs are in the fall, do our own research, or get directions from people who know the runs, we can catch sight of parts of these arresting journeys. I have been lucky to have experienced quite a lot of those moments. They are still vivid to me. Amy Cordalis and her aunt, Sue Maston, are staunch advocates for the Klamath River of northwestern California and its salmon. To them, the river and its salmon are members of their own Yurok families. Amy and Sue took me to the cliff on the north side of the mouth of the Klamath, where the river's outgoing flows hit the Pacific. The Chinook salmon were returning from their years in Alaska. It was a noisy, hyperactive scene. The salmon were jumping, diving, and playing in the ocean foam while competing with birds and each other for shrimp and small fish amid the screeching of the gulls and pelicans. We watched for a good hour. Philip Martin Sr., a gentle traditional man with detailed knowledge of his Quinault tribal history, took me to a waterfall high up on his tribe's river. We were there at the right time. The Quinault blueback sockeye salmon run was returning, and we could see the power of these fish as they charged up the furious waterfall, leaping, climbing, and swimming to conquer the imposing flow. Billy Frank Jr., Nisqually, one of the people most responsible for the Boldt Decision, allowed me to join him on a trip to spawning grounds on Muck Creek in the upper Nisqually River watershed. During spawning, all is slower and quieter because the females are releasing their eggs. Soon after, the males and females will both finish their lives. Billy and I were viewing animals that had just completed a round-trip journey of several thousand miles. Pacific salmon, so exquisite and inspiring, so rare. Based on my reading, talking with people, getting out on the water and the ground, and my own thinking, I was convinced that it is accurate to describe this grand animal by terms such as the soul of the Pacific Northwest and a muscular fish that embodies the health and vitality of this region. Another subject that I have given special attention to, starting with my time at NARF and continuing throughout my career, is American Indian tribal sovereignty. Tribal sovereignty is one of the most powerful and valuable public ideas that has ever touched my mind. I say that not just because of tribal sovereignty's legal and intellectual worth, but because it has also proved to be so invincible. The world's most powerful nation tried to terminate tribal sovereignty over the course of many generations.